This is the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose, where I strategize with business owners on how to grow and scale their businesses to hit their income goals. This is episode 212 of the Influencer Entrepreneurs Podcast with Jenny Melrose. Today, I am diving into how to make $30,000 a month, the system that actually took her from $5,000 a month to $30,000 with Jessie Harris-Bouton. Now, before we dive into this content, which I'm going to tell you, this was such an amazing conversation, and we had so many connections and had no idea until after the interview of how many different connections we had. And it really goes to show you how small the world is. But before we dive into that, I want to make sure that you guys are aware that this episode is actually being sponsored by my free product guide. So in this episode, you're going to hear Jessie talking about the one thing formula, and my product guide goes along with this perfectly because it's figuring out that one thing that you can market and sell. So make sure that if you haven't already grabbed the free product guide that I offer, that you make sure to hop over to the show notes and download that. So we are really fully going to dive into this episode with Jessie. She has an amazing background, really interesting history that I'm going to let her share. But I want to make sure that when you do hop over to the show notes, you also make sure to sign up for her 3-part video series that she is offering. All right, let's dive in. Hi, Jessie. Welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
I am so excited to really get to dive into more of your story. But before we do that, will you actually just introduce yourself and your business, and then we'll do more of like the backstory of how it all started?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the super brief overview of who I am is kind of like a whirlwind of a story, and I'm sure we'll connect the dots in some of the episodes. So I'll do my best here. Born and raised, a single child. Definitely had a lot of struggles in life, so much so that was quite depressed at sometimes. I lost my dad at a young age, unexpectedly to a heart attack. But fast forward into my teenage years, I fall deeply in love with race car driving. And I know right now you're like, okay, we're here because we're entrepreneurs. I know, I'll get there, I promise. But I ended up having a whirlwind career for 5 years behind the wheel of professional 300 mile per hour race cars, traveling all across the country, getting paid to drive these cars in front of fan groups as large as 40,000 people. And so it gave me a platform to really inspire people ultimately to go out and chase their dreams. Driving the car, of course, was fantastic, but that's what it was for me. I've had this deep passion to always give life to others through whatever it is that I do. And so for me, it was always that dream chasing, right? So I decided to retire because there's only 2 things I ever wanted to be in life, which was a race car driver and a mom. And so I'm actually a mom of 5 right now. I have 5 kids ages 9 to 10 months. So I cannot guarantee that one will not just barge right through my office door here today, because that is mom life. And most of us are okay with that, which is great, especially in this era, right? With COVID and lockdowns and all of that at the time of this recording. Yeah. But I fell into, again, by default, a deep depression because although I was so happy being a wife and a mom, I felt like just lost in the chaos of life, all the things pulling at me, but nothing was really filling my cup up. I was building a really successful physical therapy clinic with my husband while I was, momming and wifing and local community volunteering and all the things. But I really was struggling with why I was even on this earth. And it was really a hard time for me because I felt ungrateful when I had an absolutely beautiful life that I was thankful for. But what I found is I was missing that thing that gave me purpose, right? That platform with the race car driving job to inspire others. And I ended up finding intentional living techniques, personal development, more or less, and kind of spiraled in a good way out of control in just building myself up, using my power, right? To build myself up rather than tear myself down, and ended up getting certified as a life coach just because I wanted to hold myself accountable. I felt like that was a really smart thing to do. And then I decided to help a few people because, again, if I had to keep them accountable, it would keep me accountable. And fast forward really 6 years, that was when all of that started. I've gone from a certified life coach to a certified life and business growth coach just because I joke that I have cried more tears raising my businesses than my babies. I built a 7-figure brick and mortar business, but holy moly, I struggled in the online space. And so that became my new passion project at first. And now it's evolved into what I call the Millionaire Mompreneur brand, where I help women build their profitable purpose business, more or less, and stop trading time for money and, live their best life ever. It sounds cheesy, but it's a thing over here.
It is. And it's a great thing. So one of the things that I love that you said was that you talked about you shed more tears building your business than you did in being a mom of 5, which being a mom of 5, I have 2 and it's overwhelming. So I can imagine 5 just adds to that. But with that being said, it is that roller coaster ride of being an entrepreneur. It is so many highs and so many lows. And you do have to have very thick skin and the tenacity to be able to get up from when you do fail. Yeah. So I'd love to kind of talk about some of those tears and then where you were able to then figure out how to scale. So I know one of the things that you talk about is your story of how you went from 5K to 30K consistently in a month. Yeah. Let's start with that and then kind of talk about the strategies that you were able to implement in order to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So as a certified life coach, I created something that I call the RUSH rule. So RUSH is an acronym for Revving Up Self-Happiness. It's from my first book that I wrote called The Rush Revolution, Revving Up Self-Happiness Through the Power of Intentional Living. And what it comes down to is there's only 2 things that we really have control over. Everybody likes to think that they have control over all the things. It's fake. It's not true. You only have control over your belief or effort, or attitude, however you want to look at it. And then your effort and or action, however you like to view it. And so if you put that together, first of all, let's just talk, because I know you do have quite a few moms here. How many of us, you already know where I'm going. How many of us multitask too much? And I get it. It is a way of life as a mom, as a woman and a mom especially, right? But what I found is the reason why I wasn't having a lot of success and my clients weren't having a lot of success at things was because they were doing, 10% here and 8% there and 12 here and 15 there. Nothing was getting 100%. And so, the house looked kind of clean, but it wasn't perfectly clean, right? Their kids were half potty trained, but they weren't 100% potty trained. I mean, I'm being silly here, but I'm also being very, very serious. And what the RUSH rule is, I call it 100% belief plus 100% effort minus giving up equals success and or at the very least joy or fulfillment. Because see, the thing that ends up making us feel like failures is because we know that we could have done better. So if you give that 100% belief and effort and stop multitasking, go all in, what I say batching, right? In business, but I batch my life, I batch my relationships, I batch my health goals, everything. What you'll find is even if you miss the mark and you don't have 100% success, at the very least, you won't have any regrets and you will have peace with what your results were. And then you'll go at it maybe differently next time, right? If you actually want a better result. And this was something that I created as a life coach, but it actually stemmed all the way back 10 years before that in my race car driving days, because that car had the power to get me to the finish line safely and as the winner, but also had the power to kill me with one minor error. It pulled 5 G-forces off the start line. It went 0 to 100 in less than a second. It would go 0 to 300 in 5 seconds. And so I have good friends that I have lost over the years through terrible, tragic car accidents, race car accidents. And so, that realization for me was something that might scare the crap out of other people, but I am so thankful that I had that really what I call like a life and death situation, because it made me understand that, that was the basis or the foundation for all success. And for me, 5 years behind the wheel of that car, over 650 races, I won all but one. I retired as the world champion. And now 15 years later, I still hold the title of the winningest driver ever in that division in both the male and female category. And I am not tooting my own horn here. I want you to truly understand the power of the rush rule, what I'm talking about here. And yeah, as an entrepreneur, I want you to apply that to your business, but you can apply that to anything. The rush rule is how I lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks that I couldn't lose for a year after baby number 2, right? Because I finally went all in. And if we're being honest, I truly decided to do it because I loved my body and I didn't want to die young like my dad, etc. Right? I did it from a place of just trying to be happy with myself rather than focusing on the unhappy. And I took that rule. I'm all about simplifying. And so I took that rule when I had like a heart to heart with my husband, and he's like, baby, I love you, but you are putting in way too much time and effort for the amount of money you are, building your business. And I actually was making good money, but I was working 60 plus hours, killing myself. And I was sacrificing myself and him and the kids. And I love him. I remember at the time I hated him for it. And I was, on the kitchen floor hysterically crying because my business was one of my babies too. I didn't want to give up on it, but I took that rule and I applied it and I simplified it. I actually ended up creating another rule that I call the one thing formula. And if you are listening right now, please listen very, very closely to what I'm about to say. And I think Jenny, you will probably agree with this. The one thing formula is game changing. I give this away free all the time. Everybody's like, wow, that's amazing. Why do you tell me that? Why don't you just, because I give you all the other good stuff too, right? Like that you pay for with me. But the one thing formula is important because as an entrepreneur, especially in this day and age, entrepreneurship's like the new American dream. Let's be real. Everybody wants it. And they see, I'm going to make all this money. I'm going to have all this freedom. But they try to do all the things. They try to post on social media all the time. They try to blog. I know you guys are all bloggers here. You're blogging all the time. You're trying to start a YouTube channel at the same time. And you're trying to podcast and this and that and this and that and this and that. And again, what happens? You aren't giving 100% to anything. You're spreading it too thin. And so there's no possible way that you can stand out as a leader or an expert in your industry if you're doing all the things and not giving 100%. And so the one thing formula, I break it down by, I tell you to pick one core audience, like super niche, right? One core audience, deliver a result or a solution, one result or solution to them with one core product, and then do it with one marketing plan, meaning on one social media platform with one lead magnet of sorts. And this scares the living crap out of everybody, especially us women and moms, because we don't know how to not do all the things. We're good at it. And so we feel like, but I could just, repurpose this over here. And I could just. But I promise you, if you're willing to slow down and trust this formula, it will change your business overnight without even any extra support. And then if you do add in extra support, right, with a proven system to follow, it's insane. And so what I did was I applied that one thing formula. And I went from working 60 plus hours a week, barely making $5,000 a month, to in just 30 days making $30,000 working just 20 hours a week. And I know that sounds too good to be true, but it wasn't like it when I started 30 days and then, that's what happened. I had a lot of struggles and failures and some successes along the way too, right? That built up for when it clicked for me and I had this great idea. I put it into action. It worked. And I mean, the rest has really been history. That is how the Millionaire Mompreneur brand came to be, because I realized that there was an opportunity to not just make six figures. And six figures is great, but six figures didn't change my life. And the majority of the women I work with, and I think your women are probably quite the same, Jenny, are looking for some freedom along with it. They're not just purpose driven and you want to give their gift to the world, but they also want some freedom associated with that. And again, 7 figures is what changed my life. Just keeping it real here, guys. And if you can make $1 or if you can sell something for $1, I promise you, you can make $1 million, and you can sell something for 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. And you can do it in your DMs. Like, it is totally possible. No matter how many, how much it scares you, it's possible.
Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just thinking of starting a podcast, you need to listen to Buzzcast from the folks at Buzzsprout. Here we go! Buzzcast covers everything a podcaster should know, from marketing strategies and how to make money from your podcast to the latest and greatest tech and industry insights to keep you on the cutting edge. Follow Buzzcast by clicking the link in the description or go to buzzcast.buzzsprout.com and keep podcasting.
Right. I think one of the important things that you talked about, and I think to go along with it, I definitely have a question to kind of dive a little bit deeper into it, is you're talking about the one thing, and I know the question that they're all sitting there listening is going, how do I decide? How do I decide what that one thing is? Because I am multi-talented, I am creative, and I want to be able to serve my audience multiple ways. And they're also the pushback they'll give you as well is, but I have different people on different platforms. How do I know which platform is the right platform to like really truly focus on? So how do you decide that? Like, what is that determining factor that makes you say, okay, this is the one thing that I'm going to put my time and effort into? I think when it comes to the personal and the mom stuff, when we talk about, I'm going to lose the weight, I'm going to put the time into me, that's more tangible. But when it's a business, it's almost like I'm throwing spaghetti sometimes up against the wall, right?
Perfect analogy, right? Overused, perfect analogy, which is why we use it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I get it. So here's my two tips. Number one, choose the one that feels the best to you. I have totally rocked every single social media platform before, but my favorite's Instagram because I love to connect with my people, and Instagram stories is how I do that, and DMs, etc. That's my favorite platform. And so that is my number one platform that it's funny, I've actually scaled back and I now follow the one thing for me 100%. However, once you have a sustainable, consistent income going, like 6 figures or more, and again, please hear what I'm saying, not just 6 figures overnight, because that sometimes can happen. It needs to be sustainable. It needs to be consistent. Only then do you get to repurpose to other platforms. Then I will give you permission. But again, I think it would be smarter to have someone else do that for you, because most likely your time, I value my time. Like, time is the most precious commodity. And for me, I did build that originally to 20 hours a week by myself. And now I have a team, and that's fantastic. And now I work like 5 hours a week. I'm gonna be honest, guys, I go all in on my one thing. I'm not constantly creating. See, what happens too with entrepreneurs is, and I know that you guys are mainly bloggers, but the reason why I'm sharing all of this too is because as a blogger, you actually have an amazing opportunity to have another side hustle, another stream of income. And in fact, you're probably stupid. I love you. That's said with so much love, purple hearts, said with so much love. You're stupid if you don't. Once you get this going, it is really smart for you to monetize the crap out of it. So I want you to think about then how you can do that, but have somebody maybe doing that for you. And then again, maybe your one thing will change over time. Maybe the blogging will be in support of your course that you create, teaching people how to build a successful blog in 2020. Because I know that that's intimidating, right?
Yes, no, 100%. So talking about absolutely diversifying is an important thing for anyone to be doing entrepreneur wise. But I love the fact that you're saying, figure out that one thing first, really get good at it, and then start to hand some of it off as you do have that income coming in, that you're able to then build that team that's going to be able to sustain you and get you to work even less. Yeah. So in the very beginning, when you started talking, you mentioned batching. And I think that again goes to that system of simplifying, because as moms, we do like to try to do multiple things at once. We're running all over the place, answering the kids and then answering a phone and then answering an email. But what a lot of times I think we miss is the fact that we're wasting so much time doing those things in the same instance, because we then have to take our mind back and go, wait, crap, what was the email that I was writing before I had to go and change a diaper or do whatever it was? So, and I think one of the things that has probably helped you and benefited you is the fact that you were so good at what you did. You knew you had to focus. It was like life or death kind of situation when you were driving that car, to stay focused on the system that you were putting into place. You couldn't be distracted by other things. Yeah. So as a mom that's quarantined probably around the country still, even when this actually comes out, how do we stay focused and still be able to get these one things done?
Yeah, it's a key word that maybe your audience missed, but I heard it and it flagged. The word is systems. So systems, guys, they simplify processes, and processes are the pathway to power. if you don't have a system in place for that thing that you need to get done and get done well, it will never get done well and you won't stay accountable to it. It's not sustainable, right? So I had at the time COVID went in like February, March of 2020, I had a brand new newborn. I had 3 kids in school at the time, plus I had a 2-year-old. And we went into full lockdown. So we got rid of my part-time babysitter, part-time house helper. I was running my 7-figure brick and mortar with 15 employees from home, had my coaching business, all my one-on-one clients. I had keynote speaking engagements, all the things. And now I'm homeschooling, right? For all the things. The sheets have to get washed, right? You can't just not wash the sheets because you don't have time. Dinners still need to get made. Butts need to get wiped. Oh my God, I wipe so many butts every day. And like I'm saying all this to be silly, but like there's no way that I would have survived that if I didn't have systems in place. And I at the time I was doing a ton of what I called tag along Tuesdays on Instagram stories so that my people could see exactly how I was getting through. And I understand, like I am the queen of, I detested systems my whole life. I thought they were crap. They just didn't work for me. I fly by the seat of my pants really well. I work well under pressure. I'm never going to embrace scheduling and batching in systems. Guess what? When you have 5 kids and 2 businesses, yes, you do. And so, I teach systems for everything. Like you said, whether it's going after my health goals, whether it's going after I have a system for my husband's and my relationship. I mean, everybody, I have a system for sitting here paying my bills while we were waiting to get on our call. I'm sitting here doing my bills. And normally I wouldn't do that, but I was just like, oh, I'll get a head start because at 2:30, I have 15 minutes time scheduled for it. I know that's annoying, but once you start to do it and you see the results, you'll see that it's worth it. And so, I had this thing going for me, like you said, in my race car driving days where there was a true system in place. And so not only was I really victorious, which is awesome, but when I tell you I was one of the best drivers in the top 5, okay, not just of whatever, down to reaction times. And I'm not going to get into it. This is a little overwhelming, but my reaction times were the best out there. And it means you leave the start line when lights flash. And it's like a 0.001, okay, of a second reaction time. So in the time it takes me to say second, you're already 5 times past that. Okay. The reaction time has to be instantaneous. You don't even have time to think about it. And I'd have these just unheard of reaction times consistently, repeatedly for 5 years that it got everybody's attention in the world of drag racing and this and that. And they're like, how? And I'm like, because I'm not in there thinking about how my boyfriend broke up with me. Like before I went away for that weekend, right? Because life was hard. I had a lot of things going on. And I was in my early 20s. I had stuff going on in my life that really was distracting. And as a girl or a woman, we overthink all the things. And I remember sitting there, I had that realization of like, if I don't go all in on this and I'm thinking about my boyfriend or I'm thinking about that fan that booed me or I'm thinking about this or the money that I don't have in the bank, I'm never going to whatever. So I played in my head systems. Like I would run that race, like the buttons, the hand controls in that race car 500 times before I would ever get behind the wheel. And so I know that sounds crazy, but that's how I was so amazing as a driver. I now do the same thing. I visualize my day in the morning as I'm laying in bed. And I'm not saying that you have to be as crazy as me, but you need to understand that a lot of times the way we turn our dreams into reality is through visualizing it, not just dreaming it, right? Everybody dreams super big and they try to hit that home run overnight, become the world's best blogger and a millionaire mompreneur. But it doesn't work like that. You have to be willing to start small. And the way you start small is to just start to really believe that it's possible for you. Well, how do you do that? You create a system. And I know you're going to say to yourself, well, I don't feel ready, or I'm not prepared enough, or I'm not good enough. Believe me, I have heard all the things. We've all had all those things our whole life. But the thing that holds you back is just going all in on one system, even if it sucks, even if you fall flat on your face. Because once you go all in and you're willing to look like a loser and cry more tears, right? Raising your businesses than your babies, you'll find that although you didn't get where you wanted to, you learned something, right? And every problem, there is an opportunity to learn something if you're willing to focus on that and not the problem. And so that is how a Millionaire Mompreneur brand got started from zero, right? Zero budget, zero followers, zero whatever. Same thing for you, Jenny. Like, it's because you were willing to start scared, start looking like a hot mess, and just keep growing and evolving and shifting. And I mean, I joke, but I mean, we are continuing in all of my businesses to grow and shift and evolve every single day. Doesn't matter that I'm 17 years into one and 6 into another. Like, we are still making big moves all the time just because things change.
So let's go to that system piece really quick. Can you give me an example of a system that, as a mom, when you, let's say, like when you first went into quarantine, you have a 2-year-old, you have the newborn, what kind of system? Because I think people hear that word and they assume it's like this big thing that has to be done. When in reality, you gave a really simple system that you just said, you schedule when you're going to do your bills. And then you probably go through and go to the websites or do however you pay them. Yeah. So can you give me a system example like that so they can kind of put it into just a better understanding for it?
Yeah. So truthfully, number one, it's being willing to schedule things in on your calendar. Like I joke about, if it's not on my calendar, it will not get done and it will get completely forgotten about. Same thing. Like you mentioned this earlier about, like, you start an email and then 15 minutes later, like, oh, I never finished that email. Right. That's why I do not open email until I'm ready to sit and do it. I don't open my Voxer, my one-on-one clients Voxer with me. I do not open Voxer unless it's 9 a.m., 12 p.m., or 4 p.m. That is my 3 times a Monday through Friday check-in. And I only open it and listen to it when I know I have time to respond. Because if I don't, I won't respond to it. I will forget. It's like, we talk, right, about the crazy multitasking. Again, you probably will get this really well, but like, I'm the person who, while I'm changing the dirty diaper and I go to put it in, I go, oh, that diaper pail needs to be changed. But if that diaper pail is not meant to be changed right then, I know this sounds crazy, okay? But if it's not meant to be changed right then, because it's not in the planned system, I don't change it. You want to know why? Because then what happens is I open the diaper pail and then the thing busted open and now I got to go get the cleaning things. I got to come in and clean it. And on the way to get the cleaning things, I tripped over the damn dog's toy. So I picked up the dog toy. And then when I went to throw the dog toy out the backyard, I saw that the dog had poop hanging out his butt. I mean, this is real life, guys. Like, these are the things that happen in my life, right? The poop stuck out the dog's butt. And now my 4 kids are laughing hysterically and chasing the dog and the dog's whatever. So then I put the baby down in the little car carrier or pack and play thing so he's safe. I go do that. And then I come back and then everybody's screaming they need a drink and we start to get a drink. And right, I've totally forgotten about the freaking diaper pail, but now I've left it open because I didn't finish cleaning it. And while I'm making lunches and getting drinks for the kids, the dogs went in and found the diaper pail and destroyed the diapers everywhere. So now I've made a bigger mess for myself. And I use this as an example because this is real life. This has happened to me before, totally, number one. Number two, that's why if you don't have a system in place, a lot of times it goes awry. It goes a ruckus, a mess, because you have to see things through from start to finish 100%. Otherwise, things get forgotten. Things don't get 100%. Things don't happen at all, right? It's the same thing with, I know that I don't want to work crazy hours in my business. So this is what I teach to the ladies that I work with. So I, as a previous, like all in just one-on-one coach. But what I did was I backed myself into a corner, couldn't work any more hours, couldn't add any more clients, couldn't make any more money, right? And over time, I realized I needed to take my genius and pack it up in a course that I could sell on Automate. This is a system that I have in my business. So I'm giving you a real life example and now a system, business system example. So I'm going to give you a link. I'm assuming Jenny's going to ask me if I want to send you to my website. Where can you find me? My social, my this and that. So you would go to a link, jessieharrisbouton.com/start here. And that will put you to my free lead magnet. Okay. When you go to that, guess what? You're going to, boom, be prompted into probably a video series. You're going to get that video series. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to send you 11 emails on the back end of that. Okay. I call them something, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to pitch you to one of my programs. Okay. That's just how it goes. I'm super transparent, guys, to a point that some people love it and other people hate it. And if you love it, high five, glad to meet you, girlfriend. If you hate it, it's okay. I don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. That's and right. Remember that yourself too, because I know that that's a hard thing in the blogging world. We get caught up in comparisonitis, etc. Yeah. But then from there, if you take me up on my offer, good, then that email series stops. Again, all automated. If you don't take me on it, that email series also stops at some point, but then you get sent into another one. If you do buy it, guess what? You get all of your stuff instantly. You get instant access into all the things. And then after that might upsell you into one-on-one coaching with me. But it's all done on automate. Sleep sales actually exist, and people think that it doesn't. I know I used to too, but they do. Why? Because if you have a system in place, it can be done. Okay. And guess what? I sell tons of money all the time, not touching it ever. And that's it. It's a way of life for me. And it's a system, but it wouldn't happen if I didn't have a system. If I was waiting till tomorrow to manually do it, it's not going to work. Our podcasts, right? Aren't your podcast emails when you're signing up for chit-chatting on our calendars with a guest, it's automatically sent. If I was sending them to you, we're never going to connect, right? In fact, we joke, we even had automated stuff set up. And by the time Jenny and I tried to get on, we still had an error, right? Systems do have errors, and that's okay. But that system is also how we were able to really quickly catch the error and, follow up. So I'm going to shut up because I'm a talker.
I love that about that it makes it so much easier to interview you because you are a talker and you're giving those examples that I'm asking for. I love that you gave a real life example. And I love the fact that you talked about that funnel, right? Because a lot of us work kill funnel and we get all like, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. But it's that simple. It's send them to a freebie and then have an email, a sequence that comes afterwards. We talked about this so many times on the podcast. It's not even funny. So I love that you brought up your freebie because that is going to actually show your process, show your system, but it's also going to teach us something. Can you tell me a little bit about that? It's the 3-video course, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a little mini course. It walks you through the 3 steps to build a fully automated business. So, something I joke about is like you just said funnel, and the way you said it, it made me laugh because that's what everybody, when they say funnel, they're like, ugh. It's because everybody overcomplicates it because online marketers are, there to sell you on something fancy. And I'm an online marketer, so I'm not trying to be obnoxious, but I don't actually think of myself as an online marketer. I think of myself as somebody who's just willing to play the game to get what I want, but I'm going to do it as simple and easy as possible because I don't like complex, right? And so, pay attention when you're signing up for anything of someone who you are looking maybe up to in the world of the online space. Pay attention to how they're doing things. I've been to so many different conferences in my life because we were supposed to this past September host our first live Millionaire Mompreneur event. I'm so excited about it. But I went to so many conferences, not because I wanted to learn anything, but because I wanted to see how they did things, what I liked, what I didn't, etc. And that's when you start to get to that place where you stop trying to consume content to learn, that's game changing. When you get to a place where you're paying attention to the how. So yes, look at what my funnels do and understand that I built a millionaire mompreneur brand through funnels, systems that are set on autopilot. And that is how currently right now I'm working 5 hours a week and still making money in my sleep. I mean, I'm not doing anything extra. And this is a bonus too, when you have that like one thing that you're doing, I'm not constantly creating something new, right? When something doesn't work, what happens a lot of times with entrepreneurs is they quit. They quit and then they start something new. And then when that doesn't work, they quit and start something new. What they have to understand is there's a time that you need to be willing to stay the course, to set that foundation, be willing to speak to none and then one. And what happens is Metcalfe's law will start to, take place, and that momentum will start to build, and 1 will become 2 and 2, 4 and 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, so on. Right. And so I urge you to really be honest with yourself and look at, you've been maybe flip-flopping too much, right? Pay attention to how, if you do come into my funnel, it's not an icky sales like pressure, blah, 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 blah on the back end, but pay attention to the how. And if you end up loving it, fantastic.
Perfect. We're going to make sure that we link to that in the show notes so that you guys can all check that out. Where else, Jessie, are the best places to reach out to you? I'm going to guess Instagram. And what is your handle?
Yep. I'm Jessie Harris-Bouton, all together on one. And I know, Jenny, you'll put it in the description, but Jessie Harris-Bouton on Instagram. That's the absolute best place. If you send me a DM, I will probably voice message you back and you'll hear my kids in the background, but that's just normal. So yeah.
Excellent. I love it. Well, Jessie, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and my audience. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Oh, it's been an absolute blast. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, there you have it. Please tell me that is not one of the most interesting stories to hear how she was a race car driver and now is able to run her business with 5 kids at home and really be able to help as many women as possible by focusing in on her the one thing formula. So I want you to make sure that you hop over to the show notes if you haven't already. Sign up for her 3-part video series that is going to really talk to you more about understanding how you can focus on the one thing formula. As I said in the beginning, this episode, you want to make sure that you also grab my free product guide if you don't already have it, because that is going to help you figure out what is that one thing that you need to be focusing on. I appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to listen in. Please feel free to tag and share on Instagram stories. You can tag me at Jenny_Melrose as well as at Jessie Harris-Bouton in your stories, and we will get you in your DMs thanking you for sharing. As always, if you haven't already left a rating review, I so appreciate it when you take the time to do it. That helps to get great guests like Jessie onto the podcast. All right, guys, until next time, I will see you all then.